Welcome to Action Hour. In the second half of my interview with famed artist, activist Peggy Oki, we discuss the southern resident orcas of the Pacific Northwest who may face extinction due to starvation.
Another point of real urgency at this time is saving the southern resident orcas. They're also referred to as southern resident killer whales, but I find orcas to be a bit more respectful for what these incredible beings are. And they're primarily in the Pacific Northwest. Their range is from Vancouver, Canada, all the way down to Monterey Bay. That's where they've been sighted. They're called resident orcas because they're closer to the coast, and this population, J, K, and L pods, are the most studied cetaceans in the world. They have the most information about them because they are, relatively coastal. And from early on, researchers starting with Ken Balcom, started to document individuals from every member of that pod because they could do dorsal and saddle patch IDs. And so they would look at the dorsal fins, there's markings, there's the saddle patch shape on the top behind the fin of the orcas. Each one is unique. And so they've been able to label names and numbers on them to keep track of where they are, what they're doing, if they have children, if they have give birth to calves, and the males and the females. The males distinctively have a much taller, larger dorsal fin than the females. So a lot of people who watch the nature documentaries, they've seen these dramatic scenes of orcas chasing a seal, for example, onto the shore on the beach, and then jumping up bridge, like landing themselves on the beach for a moment and grabbing that seal and taking it back and eating it. Or the seals, or the hunting off the Antarctic, where only certain ecotypes of orcas will actually do something like they'll see seals resting on a large piece of ice, and then they'll go underneath as a group of orcas, and then they will create a wave that knocks the seal off of the ice float, and then it becomes eaten. So these are all different ecotypes, and there's over 10 ecotypes of orcas across the world. They're not all the same. Depending on what part of the world they live in, they have evolved. And you can see it if you saw a chart of illustrations showing the different ecotypes, how some of them are bulkier, the ones off of Antarctica. Some of them are a little bit smaller in size. Their jaws are different. Their teeth are different because of their diet. These southern resident orcas eat only fish, and at least 80% of their diet is Chinook salmon.
Right.
Sure. We've got an action page, www.cetaceans.org/, there we go, Southern Resident Orcas. And we are calling for action, because what has happened is this particular population, I don't know about people knowing the story of Tokite, who was also known as Lolita.
Mm-hmm.
And she was sent off to the Miami Sea Aquarium and was in captivity for over 53 years. She was captured from L pod, one of the 3 pods of the southern resident orcas. And when people were capturing these wild orcas, they would scare these orcas with grenade, flash bomb type of things and flares and stuff, and chase them into a bay and separate the mothers from the calves and take away the younger ones, the calves, and sell them off. So that pod was severely impacted. Their population, they took out the breeding population, and then since then they started to recover, but they also have had this population being so close to the coast areas. They're also exposed to our human runoff of pollution, including PCBs and forever chemicals, and which are things like flame retardants. And so they've had a really tough time. And on top of that, we've seen a rapid decline in the population of Chinook salmon and other fish, but primarily, as I said, their diet is Chinook salmon. And they've been dying of starvation. And it's something that I really became more aware of about 5 years ago when I was in the Pacific Northwest and I was on a whale watch trip to see the orcas during Superpod, which is a big conference for orca lovers. And I saw Tahlequah, who was the pregnant female, and she was alive at that time with her baby, she was pregnant. After Tahlequah gave birth to her calf and it died within an hour, she proceeded to mourn the death of her calf, and she carried it. Imagine an orca swimming in the ocean carrying this calf on top of her head for 17 days.
Oh.
And that became a news item. And what the concern about that, and then later, about a month after that, Scarlet, the young female orca from J-Pod, went missing. And basically, they're very social beings. They stay together. If you don't see them with their pod for, they keep watching. As I said, they track every individual. They're able to identify them. If they don't see them for, I think, at least 6 to 9 months, they start getting really worried. And that's what happened with Scarlet. They hadn't seen her for well over a month, and they saw her in very skinny condition. And these orcas are not getting enough of the salmon that they need.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things such as overfishing. And it's like there are species of Chinook salmon, including the Snake River salmon, Chinook, that are endangered. And yet people are still eating them. Fishermen are still allowed to go catch them and sell them, and people eat them when the orcas need them. So one of the things that's been determined after, and it's been going on for a very long time, years and decades, watching the decline of the Chinook salmon from the Snake River. And that river is a part of the Columbia network. It's a tributary into the Columbia River. It's got 4 dams that can be breached, which is a different thing from taking the dams down completely. There's a side called an earthen berm, which is just compacted soil, and they can remove that and allow the river to flow through and for the salmon to return to their native spawning grounds and then recover. And it's a really relatively simple thing that can solve this problem, but we need people to tell the various government agencies to do this. And we have all that information. In fact, we are about to launch our campaign with the activist pack, and people can do things. You know how people go to like a farmer's market or an event, and they have a table and they ask people to sign a petition on the table. We're asking people to collect signatures on postcards, to get people to write a message on the postcards that we're offering from our activist pack, and take real action.
Wow, that's amazing. I know you love to get the public involved and get individuals involved to write personal messages and to share artwork or any kind of emotional message that will reach other people in a unique way. And I think that's incredible. I wanted to show here your page from the website. Let me see if I can make it full screen.
Yeah, so that's if you go to cetaceans.org, there will be a take action button, and you can easily get to that page. And then from that page, you can select which actions people would like to take.
You have been watching Action Hour. Stay tuned for my 3rd and final interview with Peggy Oki.